far.
That extra gear, the first 3 steps.
Huge strides in the performance.
That I might not be the player I am today.
All right, welcome to another episode of Behind the Gear, and today we've got a round table here on a square table.
Hot stove.
Hot stove. Wado's on the hot stove.
Thanks for having me, boys.
Yeah, no problem. It's Wade Russell, one of our boys here, and Kevy Galerno, and Kevin's his full name, but we call him Kevy, and Soupy, Max Campbell.
Starting to feel like a regular.
Yeah, you guys are going to be regular. You know what? As I've been doing episodes of this, one-on-one interviews are good and fine and stuff like that, but it'd be nice sometimes to have a sidekick. So you guys are sidekicks now.
It's a tryout.
Yeah.
So we're like in teams.
Yeah, that's right. One thing too, I talked to, I think Kevin a little bit about it, maybe Max a bit, but I reached out to a couple guys that are currently playing like in their seasons right now, and mentioned that, hey, I wouldn't mind doing like a phone call with you. So something like this, where we're sitting around talking about skills or whatever, and then giving somebody a call that's playing currently either pro or in the NHL or something like that, and kind of chat with them just about the NHL and how all that's going. So that's something that I'd like to try to add to episodes like this when we're doing roundtables or talking about stuff. But today I kind of wanted to chat with you guys and pick your brains a little bit about a couple months into the season now. Obviously pretty good, a lot of games been played, a lot of fun stuff to watch and stuff like that. But we'll talk about minor hockey and kind of what we see at the minor hockey level as well. But has there been any things in the NHL that you guys have seen that, hey man, we were just working on that with kids the other day in practice, and they might be 7, 8 years old, and then all of a sudden, one of the NHL guys steals it from us and uses it in a game, or no, he just knows how to do that. But is there any skills like that you guys have been working with teams or guys or girls with that, like, oh man, we were just working on that, or a kid comes up to you like, hey, that move we worked on yesterday, I just saw it in the NHL, or I pulled it off in a game. Is there anything that kind of comes to mind like that?
I feel like that's directed at Max.
No, go Wado.
Yeah,
No,
I
can't.
probably picking up passes.
Yeah.
I don't know when it was, probably maybe a month ago now, when Matthews had that like scoop kind of behind the legs.
Yeah.
And everybody's making a big deal of it. But then we kind of see it a lot, like with the academy guys and working on it, like guys can do that pretty easily. But just the importance of picking up passes. Like I talk a lot with younger players about, you want the puck in a game. Like hockey's way more fun when you have the puck on your stick, or at least at the very little your team has the puck. So every time that puck comes to you, you want to be able to handle it. But you have little guys and girls who just, every time it comes to them, they have this little triangle that's set up and they just goes through their feet, through their stick. Yeah. So just kind of picking up passes, being able to adjust their footing, their stick, their grip, to be able to kind of pick up pucks no matter where they end up and stuff would probably be a big one that I've been talking about the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I think it's something too the coaches should keep in mind, or parents, even when you're working with your young kid, you're on the ice with your son or your daughter, but giving them bad passes. Like today we were doing a drill where they had to adjust, and it's amazing to see how many kids can't adjust on the fly, meaning you're going to the net, stick to on the ice, the puck goes behind you. Can you spin your body around quick enough, or get your stick on the outside of your body to make the tip or make a play?
Yeah.
And that Matthews guy's pretty good, for Toronto.
It's not bad.
Because he had another sick goal the other day on a tip, on a redirect. Again, it was against the Caps, where he, off his backhand, he kind of was showing backhand, D-man shot it, and he tipped it, and ended up going shelf. But again, those are things, that you work on with young guys. Not to say they're going to be able to do it like that or at that level yet, but it's pretty cool when you see that stuff translate. But to your point, I think that the feet is huge. Like if you can get that puck from your foot to your stick, it's massive, and it does look sick when you do it in a game.
Absolutely, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Even like going off of like Matthews and stuff, like Boston is obviously had a lot of success here early in the season, but like the whole Marchand Pasternak thing, we talk about handling bad passes like this morning, like those guys are freaks at it. Like they have that split second where they can make that seam pass or play. And if it's a crappy pass, like if it's bouncing, those guys are knocking it down so clean. Yeah. And then it's either a next dish or they're getting rid of it. Like not even necessarily one-timers. They're just stopping it in the right areas. And then it's pop, like already ready to go to that next play, which is like super impressive for me personally. Like you guys, we've all tried that stuff out there, and it's not simple to do, and not at that level.
They make it look so easy.
Exactly, yeah, and not at that speed for sure. So
one thing too, that putting pucks in areas, like one thing when you watch those guys, and let's say us, we get a pass, we're gonna get it, maybe you have to stick handle it into a good spot to make a pass.
Exactly.
They just touch it, and it's gone. It's like a 2-touch, tap gone, and the way that they can handle, like you said, missiles. Like sometimes these passes are heavy or they're real fast. And the way that they grab them, it's unbelievable. But going to that Marsh, I don't know if you guys saw this a couple of weeks ago. It doesn't matter. Bergeron had a hat trick, and his final goal was an empty netter. And everyone rips on Marchand like he's a rat and whatever. But obviously, you have him on your team. He's a sick player. But I don't know if you guys noticed this. Marchand had 2 goals. Bergeron had 2 goals. Marchand had the puck on his stick at the blue line for an empty net hat trick, easy, and he dished to Bergeron for his hat trick. Like that's one of those things that, no matter what you say about Marchand, like that's, to me, that's a character thing. That's a team guy. Everyone on that bench knew that he could have buried that puck if he wanted to, pass it to, one of the unsung guys on their team as far as doesn't get all the limelight all the time, but he's sick. And, I was like, man, that was an unbelievable, like just a selfless play by a high-end guy,
Yeah. I, on the weekend with Ice Dogs, I had a little guy, he like went end to end, like toe drag this, toe drag that. Made a great play for like a guy for a tap in. These kids are maybe 6 or 7. Yeah. And the little guy, a week earlier, same kind of thing happened. He got a nice little tap in and he went and did like a big like knee slide celly. And his dad's like, hey, like he did all the work, get over there, give him a fist bump. Yeah. So it was cool to see last week he went, bolted right over, didn't put his stick in the air, went over, like gave the guy the slide tackle. So it was pretty cool to kind of see that. That kind of reminded me of that, but he got the hard hat because of it. So
those are things though, those are things I think at young ages that we need to teach those young kids, like how to, you get a good pass, the first thing you should do instead of getting your hands in the air and splashing the glass is like point to your buddy. You're like, hey man, that was all you, like wicked, whatever it is, right? But I think that those are huge things, and for a dad to pick that up and obviously get the little guy get rewarded for it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it was funny to see. Like he remembered, went right over, like fist pumped him, didn't even celebrate at all. Let him go first in the drive-by on the bench and everything. So it's awesome.
That is cool.
But they are things they can learn. Like whether, like they won't know, like unless that dad points it out, or unless you, Wade, the coach, or whoever points it out. And even skill things, like we were out, I think last week we were out, we had a big group of kids, and I was working at one end with some kids, and you were talking to Dwayne, and I looked down and you had like kids. It was awesome. It was a big group, but they weren't like high end kids. And some of them were real young, and you had them like looking one way, making a pass the other way, like kind of pretty deceptive, pretty tough to do for like junior players, never mind young kids. But why can't, it was really simple. They were just like skating in a straight line and looking in front of them and making a really short pass. But that's the way you start it. Like most people are like, well, they can't not look where they're passing at that age. But like, well, no, it was an easy start. They're not going to jump into their game that night and like make a no look pass. But yeah, that's the same. They won't know how to try that stuff unless you show it to them. They won't know to show credit to a player that did all the hard work, like you and that dad did, unless you show it. So kids can learn these things at young ages as long as you point it out to them. Sure. And you get them doing it all the time. But it's cool. I think it's cool, and it's rewarding when you see a kid do that.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like I gave him the hard out, and then the week before, the guy that got the hard out he was just at every face-off showing the other young guys where to go, because he's kind of been on the team for a little bit, so he kind of knows how face-offs go and where a left winger goes versus a right D or whatever. So he would like kind of put their hand on his back and like he'd scoot them over their spots.
That's cool.
So, like he scored 3 goals, but I said like the reason you're getting the hard at is because you were being a good teammate, you're being a bit of a leader, which is like really cool to see at like 9 years old, not even 9. I think he's maybe 7.
Under,
they're young, so
for sure.
I love that stuff. So
that's great. Even, sorry,
go ahead.
No, like you see that all the time, even in the NHL. Like last night, we were talking Draisaitl and McDavid. The first thing that happened when McDavid scored is he just looked back, and you can usually read the lips on their on the replay what they're saying. But it's maybe for them it means an extra couple grand in their next contract or
a couple of
yeah, exactly.
Wait, what does it mean for you? Anything when you
just keeps my heart full.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Does that pay for your bills and stuff?
No tax deductibles, nothing.
Yeah. There you go.
I like how I'm the only guy with anything to drink here, to coffee. I was going to get you guys somebody.
Are you sponsored?
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I got to cover that up. Yeah. There's another thing too with looking at the NHL and like some of the little things that we do, like no look passes or picking up pucks in your feet, whatever it is, using the backhand of your blade. Sometimes, coach would be like, oh, my kids can't do that. There's no way, or that's a little too advanced. But if you start introducing that stuff at young ages, not every day, but every couple of practices, you add some fun stuff, some creative stuff, some head checking, shoulder checking. That to me becomes second nature as they get older. And then how much better is that player going to be when he's skating with his head up and he's able to look over his shoulders and see where guys are, or whatever that skill is, no look passes. Like the game's going that way. You see how deceptive the game is now. Everybody D-man forwards, everyone's looking guys off and passing one way or faking one way, moving the other way. And if you can teach the young kids at the young ages how to do that and just slowly start to implement it in there, by the time they're 12, 13, 14, I mean, that's just part of their game. And then you can, from there, then you can go to all this more advanced stuff. Like we saw, then the last little bit, there's been a bunch of talk about scooping the puck and scoring. The first NHL goal was scored like that by, was it,
Svechnikov.
With Carolina. Sick goal. Like, and I mean, 10 years ago, if you try to pull that off, in a game realistically, you'd probably get punched in the face by either one of your teammates, your coach, or somebody on the other team would take your head off.
Definitely the other team, yeah.
Yeah. And now it's just part of the game. Like it's, it's part of the game. I was talking to a pro guy about, putting pucks through your legs. Remember back, years ago, you come in and you'd have the puck hanging out on your forehand side and you'd slide it through your feet. Super hot dog move. Now it's how guys enter the zone. Like now you see one a game almost where guys are putting pucks through their feet, So the game's evolving. And if we can get these young kids to pick those skills up younger, how much better, and who knows where their creativity takes them as they're getting older,
Yeah, for sure. What I find that does is like when you can go through your legs and use like that kind of range around your body, is it gives you more options, right? Like now you're twice as like deadly with the puck because you can do stuff like that. You can go through your legs if around the net. Like I know I'll bring it up, but we talk about the Tkachuk goal and stuff coming up these last couple of weeks, and like if you can do that and get a good solid shot off, like why wouldn't you? Like he doesn't have to change the angle of his body. He's just kind of changing where his stick positioning is, and then. The goalie's reading. The goalie doesn't think you can do that, so he's going to play what he thinks is going to happen. But yeah, it's awesome to see that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I know it is cool, and that for anyone who hasn't looked at that Tkachuk goal, he's coming in late in the zone. Shot goes off a shin pad and bounces out, kind of 5-10 feet above the hash marks, probably. So maybe top of the circle is just below, and he puts his stick through his legs and snaps the puck. And a hard enough shot that it was like. It was going to go, had a good chance of at least creating a rebound, but totally messed the goalie up. Goalie had no idea that shot was going to go. And those are things to me that are like, I love it. It's a new, no one scored like that I've ever seen before. No. There's a lot of guys put it through their legs in tight but
they pull it through their legs, and spin or breakaways.
Yeah, he just left it, right?
He just met the puck out there. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was really good. And then how about his comments afterwards though? Like the next day they're still asking him about it and he's like, something along the lines of, hey, like we got to move on. Like it's the next day. There's more games. Like it's just part of the game,
For sure.
And I heard someone was talking about an interview with his brother. So Brady, who plays in Ottawa, and he was saying, Matthew's been working on this stuff his whole life. Like he always messes around with stuff like this and always, does, try new stuff. Right. And I know when I worked with Matthew Tkachuk doing privates and stuff like that, when he was with the Knights, almost every single session we had, he'd have the bucket, all the pucks. Zamboni be going around. He'd have to flip every single puck in. Like, not that he was like OCD on this or couldn't leave the ice. He did it, but it's just like a little skill thing. And you look at his hands around the net and his soft touches with the puck. It's crazy. Like, but there's a reason, right? When you start peeling back the layers and stuff, you're like, okay, there's a reason,
But, and we were talking last week about, adding layers to your game. Like, would anyone look at Matthew Tkachuk and be like, oh, he's like a Patrick Kane type player? Nobody would label him like that, but he's willing to like do those little stick tricks and through his legs and flipping pucks, even though that's not, he plays the game the right way. He's just able to add some of those like really, really finesse plays into his game. Like he scored, was it overtime or last minute goal against LA a couple weeks ago where he batted one out of the air from like the goal line. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so he can add those things in, but if he just did that and tried to play that way, he wouldn't be making millions of dollars as a high-end guy in the NHL. He plays the game the right way and he adds in those other little elements, which we were talking about, like junior players, getting 2-3 goals a game. Is that enough to get drafted? Maybe, but probably not enough to play and be an actual player. Like you got to add other elements to your game. So I think he's a player that every person, doesn't matter the type of player, where you're at, can like model their game after. Just his ability or willingness to do anything to win, to do anything, any type. He'll work on anything. You want to work on skating, you want to work on puck stuff, like he's probably willing to do anything just because it's all going to help. Yeah. And I think that separates him from some players. Like, is there anybody in the league, any GM that wouldn't say, I'll take him on my team?
No, for sure. I think even when
he's
kind of holding out this year, I think there's like a lot of like, oh, should he make that much? Is he worth that much? How long is his career going to be? Things like that. And then he comes back and just starts lighting it up.
That helps, but I'm not. He's not a $10 million player like McDavid, but he's a pretty big cog on a team, though. He's a pretty big, piece on a team. Come playoff time.
Plays hard. He's
got the bit of a rat element, but then he's got a little bit of high skill grit. Like he does a little bit of everything. So
you think about like Andrew Shaw when the Hawks were good, like winning, multiple cups. Like he could play on your fourth line and just shut guys down. He could play on your top line, if you need to add a little grit to like Patrick Kane's line. He's a player like that can play up and down the lineup, play in a kill, block a shot, play in a power play, and bat one in out of the air. Like he's just a guy you want around.
For sure. We're not gonna have to listen to you grease your Hawks the whole time.
I don't know if you guys heard they won 3 cups.
How about those Leafs though?
Marner doesn't have a point on goal in 5-on-5 yet, I don't think.
No.
Really?
Pretty big contract though.
Yeah. Now we're talking what's Kachuk at?
I have no idea.
Like half of Marner's contract?
Is he?
Yeah, I want to say he was like 6.
6 or 7?
Yeah, I think so.
Marner's what, 10, 11?
Just under 11.
Isn't Pasternak like?
Yeah, he's like
6 or
6.
8.
Pasternak's great though. Like on
He's
one
so
of his
good.
interviews, like, I don't need more money. I got lots of money. Like,
Yeah,
Which is
exactly.
true. He'll get paid. Obviously, he's an unreal player, but it's
Where's he
like,
from? Is he Czech?
Sudbury,
so.
Ontario, I think.
Yeah.
It's like
No, he's
million-
definitely
He's Czech. Yeah.
yeah.
That's a lot of money in Czech.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
He just loves it.
But going back to like kind of what we were talking about, the skill stuff and that, I think one of the biggest things with a lot of young kids too, we talked about this before, but it's way different than when we grew up, right? As far as you can access this stuff in a second on a phone. Grab your mom's phone, you're 7 years old, you go on YouTube or you go on the NHL network and you can look at all these clips of guys. So back when we were young, I mean, we were making stuff up on, basically playing road hockey or on the outdoor rinks or whatever it was, right?
Yep.
And now, sorry, Wade, not you. You had internet.
I'm an old soul.
You are an old soul, actually. Kind of like 40 stuck in like a 25-year-old
I
body.
learned on the
21-year-old
Etch-a-Sketch.
body. Yeah.
That's what I have.
But, now it's so accessible, which is cool because kids see so much more, and they're exposed to so much more. And it is cool to see like that kind of trending that way. And obviously like, getting, kids basically being open and exposed to so much more stuff on that side of it. What are your thoughts on devices with kids? So if you guys talk about like the benefits of it, obviously being able to be, check up on stuff, do things like that. We use our devices all the time. Any strong opinions on kids with devices?
He's looking at me.
Dad.
All together with a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
My kid's still too young to really, I think, like he obviously sees us on our phones and he sees us with the iPad and stuff like that, watching TV. And I think again, it's good in our case for sometimes to just give him the iPad and, especially, he's been running around crazy for 5 hours just to get him calmed down a little bit while we're cooking dinner or something like that. But there's definitely two extremes too. Like there, you see kids out and they're nonstop glued to their phone, right? Like, or, even kids going to hockey practice, walking in with an iPad or a phone. Like, there's got to be a time, in my opinion, like to turn that stuff off and try to get them, socializing with your teammates, having fun, family events, whatever you're going to do. But there's definitely a time and place in my opinion. But as far as like being able to do your own research and study and look up cool like skills and hockey stuff, it's awesome.
Yeah,
right?
I totally agree.
Say you give your kid, an hour or 2 a day on their device and they can look that stuff up and try, go to the basement, try that stuff. Like that's amazing.
Yeah.
For us, it was always Sports Center or Sports Desk, I think back then. But we would try it too. But now, they're exposed to a lot more than we were for sure. But
yeah.
Well, that's where they're seeing all that stuff now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and they're not watching, like, I don't think we've talked about this. They're not watching a ton of hockey games or in the mornings, they're watching Instagram, they're watching YouTube and they're seeing that crazy stuff. But what happens? What do you think? And I'm kind of going away from your question, but let's say somebody is like a kid, like maybe a little older than Maddox. So Maddox is how old?
7.
7. So let's say maybe a little older than him. But if you're a coach of a team, like 10, 11-year-olds, right? And you're seeing Svechnikov on Instagram and all over the place, like what he just did. And he goes into your game. Like it's a fine line. We're like, oh, these kids are so good, whatever. What if he tries that 3 times that night in your game? What do you do? I'm just thinking of this right now, but like, are you finally like, okay, I know that happened yesterday in the NHL, but, and it's happening once a week. There's a different league. The NCAA had a female that did it on a shootout goal this weekend. Like, eventually are we going to be like, okay, there's a time and a place, people don't flip it up in the air and bat it in like Kachuk on purpose. The puck was just there. So he batted it in, or like it's a fine line. And I haven't seen a kid or even talked to a coach that's like, I have this kid that won't stop putting it through his legs. I don't know that, but is there a fine line between that stuff? Probably.
Yeah. I think so. What do you think, Wade?
I think it's just talking to them a little bit. Like kids are pretty good at, if you were to say, hey, like I just cool it down a little bit, maybe just make a pass there instead. Like they're pretty good picking up little things like that. I think it's that fine line, right? Growing the game and getting them to be a little bit more creative. But like we see it all the time. Like I call it Instagram stick handling, where the kid drops their hand down to their knees and they stick handle on the tiny piece of their heel and they can dice up the puck really, really fast. But now your head's on the floor. You're going to get your head taken off or just a lot of bad habits and stuff. So I think it's kind of that fine line where I love how much it gets kids involved. It's a whole new way to kind of connect with the sport. There's a lot more access to it. But at the same time, it's kind of helping parents and players kind of weave through what's legit, what's good content, and then what's fun and just kind of cool to watch, and then what's maybe a little bit of fluff and a little bit kind of overproduced or whatever. So
that's a really good point, though. I think being able to dissect what is good and what is bad, like going through 17 cones, shooting on an empty net, jumping a tire, and going off a trampoline is not realistic to a game. You know what I mean? But you see that, like, see it on YouTube. It's whatever, right? It gets clicks. People like it, whatever. But I think being more practical to the game, but to your point, Kev, like taking away, you don't want to take away that creativity, but there's time and place. So hey, listen, we got practice on Wednesday. We're gonna spend 10 minutes, everyone just working on this and trying it out. Like for coaches, sometimes feed into it. Like, everyone's going to learn how to scoop a puck. I've been practicing personally. I've been practicing the last couple of days. No, because like when ice gets bad, so on fresh ice, you got a sticky puck. It's a little bit wet. The ice is wet. You can scoop no problem just by putting your blade over top of it, cupping it and scooping it, right? But when the ice gets bad, it's hard to do. So I've been watching obviously a lot of guys doing it, but just skating underneath the puck. So just like literally having your blade on the ice open and let the puck fall or skip onto your blade and then pull it up. And you see that a lot of guys doing that now, like behind the net, just scooping it. But man, it's a skill. So how do you get better at it? You practice. I'm not saying guys are going to be skating down the ice like lacrosse style with a puck on their stick, but there is certain times. Like I think there was another one, some young guy in minor hockey just scored one off a rebound that was probably rolling a bit, but he ended up scooping it and then firing it. And then we were on the ice today or yesterday, and one of the guys did it. The puck was just rolling, and he just ended up kind of turning, scooping it, and firing it. Like it was great. Puck was on edge, so it was easy to scoop, but it was like one motion. That'd be a legit goal, and it'd be sick if you pulled it off in a game. So those little skills I think are good, but time and place for sure. And you don't want to make your coach look like an idiot when you're trying to pull the puck behind the net and scoop it all game.
You almost need like a new version, a new school Don Cherry. Back in the day, he would go on and he'd say, "Listen up, kids," and he'd show you like all the things that he wanted kids to do.
Yeah,
take like a hit to make a play. And, jump over the boards and beat somebody with their shoe. But
insulation in their shin pads.
Yeah, but it'd be almost funny to have somebody go through like kind of what's good media content now and like what's not, and like kind of fluff through it on Saturday night. Like that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, that's actually
a new school Don Cherry. But
yeah, the only thing is nowadays, like no matter what that person said. If it was, whatever his line or her line was on, you should do this, 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 and this, you'd have some other buffoon on the other side. Like, you got to get more of this. You got to get more of, whatever.
Yeah.
So you're never going to make anybody happy, basically.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think that's because there are a lot of parents, man. You got new parents that have no real clue. Maybe they didn't play the game, or the hockey's all new to them. And it's like I always say, if my kid likes football and he wants to play football, I could probably take him to, I don't know, maybe 8 years old. And then I hand him off to somebody because, I never played football. I don't know a lot about the sport. I like the sport. It's a great sport, but, or if he's pitching, like I probably need someone to help him throw a ball better than I can, I definitely better catcher than catch because I can't catch.
You can get him to the running part.
Yeah, I can get him.
That's it.
Exactly. Not going to hit a ball or catch a ball. Just going to run. But going back to the devices, I think that I just heard something. That's why I brought it up. Is something like under 2 hours a day is not bad for kids. Anything over that is obviously overconsumption. And with our two kids, they love devices, man. It's almost like drugs, man. When they get off it, they're freaks for a couple of minutes, especially if you force them to get off for dinner or whatever. And we really, really, really try to limit their screen time, obviously, but I like the fact, like I want them to explore a little bit. And I feel that, when we were kids and we were mimicking our parents, for me anyway, we were like pretending we were picking up a phone and calling our buddy or whatever. Yeah. Where now when our kids mimic us, they're like actually pretending they're texting. It's just different. And that's not bad. It's just, that's the way we've evolved. Yeah. So it is going to be different. And I think a lot of old school parents are like, we always kind of want it to be like when we were kids. Well, when we were kids kind of sucked. Like it's way better now, Remember going through encyclopedias to do like projects, which is ridiculous. Now you got Google, you got everything done.
Yeah.
It's an encyclopedia.
Yeah, exactly.
But not to go into that point any longer, but and also how you associate it too. Like if you make the kids do the dishes, clean up a little bit, make their bed, and then you get 20, 30 minutes of screen time can go a long way just of establishing that habit of earning different things and kind of working way towards it. Some people, they just use it as like a pacifier or a soother.
Oh, for sure.
Like the amount of kids like walking around the rink and it's just like, baby's
just
crying,
to keep them quiet.
Zoom, here's your iPad. And the mom goes, like she's all free. It's like, well, you kind of shot yourself in the foot there because now that's the only way you're ever going to get that kid to kind of calm down.
Yeah. Well, that's a really good point though, because a lot of times kids will freak out when you say no. Mm-hmm. And the worst thing to do is reward them by saying, okay, fine, here, like you have
Yeah.
this, or, you know, no, you can't have candy, but here's your iPad or iPhone or whatever it is. And that's like my biggest stress in life, or my biggest thing I hate the most is when my kids are whining. And
Yeah.
like the last thing I want to do is give them anything. I'd rather them just whine in the closet or in the corner or whatever room I lock them in.
Cut that out. You didn't say that.
No, just that one closet with the locks on it. No, but like and then when you start giving in, you're screwed. Like you're in one, and
it's easy for me to say. I don't know.
I was gonna say, coming from the guy with no kids,
I can just leave the rink, and
it's tough.
I'm gonna send you this clip actually when you do have kids and you're firing iPads in their face all the time.
Wade and I have been talking about what you guys are doing wrong with your kids. This is where we're gonna go now. We're gonna tell you everything you guys are doing wrong.
Well, I know, like we had this conversation. I don't know what you kind of when we were about to have kids and stuff, but we weren't heavy on it. But we had friends that were like, our kids are not going to have any screen time. They're not going to be in front of the TV. Then you have a child and you're like, cartoons, man. Like Saturday morning at 5 a.m, you can watch cartoons. Like, I need another little nap on the couch.
Exactly.
Here. It's a bit of.
But does that not sound like drastic to you? Like crazy?
What's that?
Like to say no. Like,
you
grew up on it. Like, I'm not saying
no, but it's one of those things
7
where,
hours,
like,
but
don't say anything. Like, no, and I'm not like not you guys, but I'm just saying like, don't be judgmental until you go through it. Because once you go through it, it's so different. You know, it's just sit on the outside, be like, oh, it's great. You have a kid crying for like an hour and a half. You know, you can't. You're gonna go bananas. You're gonna watch this. You're gonna watch movies when you have kids about what is it called, Purple Scream or what? Do you guys have to watch that in the hospital?
Oh yeah.
Basically telling you like don't strangle her, don't shoot your kid when he's screaming or she's screaming. Yeah. But you're like whatever. You're watching this, you know, you're and your wife you're just excited to get home. You got a new baby. You're like whatever. And then like 3 hours later, you're like, man, that movie made so much sense.
Yeah,
it's like,
but there's like you can relate it to parenting, hockey. Like if I'm not a parent, but like if someone said I'm doing this every day or I'm not doing this once for my kid's whole upbringing, whatever. I'm like, I can't say that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, but if someone said, well, red meat, it's not good for them, or just teach them at a young age, like they can never have a drink their whole life. Just don't give them any alcohol ever. Like, well, or like, do you know what I mean? Whether they're going to be vegetarians or whatever it is, like, I don't know. Maybe they don't like meat. So they whatever, as they get older, I don't know. They can't, I would never say that. Like there's never going to be a screen, or I'm never going to give them this, or they can never do this their whole, you know, for the first 10 years of their life. Like that's just drastic. I think.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's why I'm gonna be a perfect parent.
I think you're already on pace for that. One other thing too, just last thing on the device, and this really frustrated me. And I was talking to a couple coaches actually that was on the ice with the other day, and we were just chatting after the practice, and they were talking about devices and how kids have a hard time making eye contact and stuff now. And I was like, man, the other day, buddies of ours came over, walked through the front door, went back to the kitchen, we're all chatting or whatever. And I'm like, and I started thinking, like, my kids didn't even like say hi, but they're on, it's like right around bedtime, they're on a device. So I go in the living room, I'm like, hey, like pause those, stop that, get over here. Like you got to say hi. Human beings just came in the house and you're stuck on these things. Like, so they dropped them, came over and, you know, had a bit of a conversation. My son's just like, hey, and then just turns, no, like get back over here. But again, I think it falls on the parents to help teach these things where make eye contact. If somebody comes over you, hey, how's it going? If you walk in a room and I'm on my phone, I should drop, hey, how's it going, buddy? What's going on? I shouldn't be stuck on my phone. Like that's just rude.
Yeah, we were talking about it last night at work. There's a couple of younger staff in there and they were sitting right beside each other, just like as close as you guys are right now. And they were on their phones the whole time. And they were talking about their phones and what they were doing on their phones. And then Reader came in and a couple of like the older guys and we're like, what are you guys doing? Like just talk to each other. Like I think a lot of kids not hide, but like it's a lot easier to just have contact where you tend a quarter of your face in a picture. You write the little message that you want to say, hey, I really like you. You want to go out sometime. And you blast it off rather than meeting that person at a coffee shop, sitting down for 20 minutes and actually talking. Like I think it's a lot more informal, indirect way of communicating, but it feels real enough that they think they're doing the exact same thing.
Imagine dating somebody for like 3 months and you've maybe had like 2 conversations with them. That'd be sick. Just make out, text, text. It'd be unbelievable. No, I'm kidding.
It's like grade 8 all over again.
Think about like back in the day, but even dating, like how different is that now compared to what, like you have to grind to get a phone number.
I was right at the beginning of phones, so I had a little bit extra work, easy work.
We'd have missions, man. When we went out at night, it was like trying to find a girl. It put your work boots on.
My parents would tell me stories how they would have to just hang out in front of like their parents.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
To me,
100%.
it's like insane.
Sure.
Like I was no.
No.
Leave us alone. Like you go in that room, we're gonna go hang out in this room. But like
Yeah.
that to me was like,
Oh
crazy.
yeah. It was. I don't know what. I'm sure you guys are similar to what I was as far as like you had to actually make eye contact with the girl and like maybe give her like a little eyebrow raise, get her to come over, or you go over, actually spark a conversation up, have some maybe cheesy line that you're gonna fire
icebreaker.
over. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it was.
Like that's what you're supposed to do. I don't think I ever was.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I think
That's
I
probably
saw
what you're
like
supposed to do. Yeah.
MSN Messenger. I think that was right around my time.
Yeah.
So you guys
that was easy too.
A little bit easy street. Then.
Yeah.
So I'm the
But
only
still, like it was like your initial, like you could send something out and then usually you'd kind of meet up in a group of friends and then it was still slow played a little bit, but a little bit more face to face.
But that breaking the ice though was like that's the hardest part. So if you can do it through a text or like a DM on Instagram or Snapchat or something like that's perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we were talking about that the other day. We're like, I wonder how these guys like meet their girlfriends and stuff. Like some of these professional
NHL
athletes.
players,
Yeah. Like, do you think they just like drop a line to like on their,
100%,
and then if they respond, like they might have dropped 50 lines in a day and then they get 2 or 3 bites. Like,
for sure.
It's hilarious.
Sure. Especially like,
I honestly think it's true love for all of them.
Yeah, there you go.
They're definitely looking at personality on Instagram. They really want to find someone with a good personality.
Oh, I'm sure it gets to that point, but we're being very superficial. But you're seeing all these like athletes who are, and stereotyping, but like a lot of them with very, very good looking wives. It's
rockets.
awesome, but 100% like rockets. Like that started with one thing. It started on, like you said, like an Instagram picture or whatever, and a quick message, and then you get to know each other. And
you rarely see like massive mismatches in pro relationships, whether it's a pro, female soccer player with a male, usually pretty good looking guy, and vice versa, male athlete. Like very seldom do you see like a really attractive female soccer player with just a guy who's 55 pounds overweight and just slugs beers and like there's no, you don't usually see that. I mean, I'm sure they're out there, but most are like man rocket, woman rocket.
Yeah.
It's a very good question for when you call in to some of the guys.
Yes. We'll try to rate the wives and the girlfriends as a young guy who's single, or we might have a girl. Actually, a couple of them obviously have girlfriends, but that would actually be good for sure.
Just throw it in there.
Because even just
it.
being around sometimes and you see some of these like wives and girlfriends like right out of a magazine.
Yeah.
Every one of them. And a lot of them look like hard to separate what they like. A lot of them look alike, but it's all right. I'll get to that next time I play in the NHL.
Yeah.
My second career when I get back up there. So if you guys, I guess one thing I wanted to touch on today as well, just because I think there's a lot of misconceptions about this out there. And we'll keep getting off the rails like we are. That's totally fine. But one thing is, how can people, I guess, find affordable skill training? So if you're working on skills, whether it's shooting pucks at home or stick handling at home, watching YouTube videos, obviously there's a lot of ways to do it. But, here, obviously in London, we've got a skating treadmill that we use a lot to work on skating technique and things like that. And we've all worked on it and worked with kids on it. Do you guys, do you guys see a benefit in the skating treadmill? And what are, because I'm sure there's skating treadmills in a lot of different pockets, and a lot of parents, I'm sure, like, what is that? Number one? Well, basically it's a big running treadmill is what it looks like, but it's probably 4 or 5 times the size. And with big slabs of synthetic ice that roll for you. So you basically skate on this treadmill. I can go on an incline, pick up speeds, all that kind of stuff. But do you guys see benefits in like some of the kids that have done 5 sessions or 10 sessions? Has it helped their skating? Has it improved? What are some of the stuff that you see? Wait, I'll ask you first just because you're kind of you're pretty fresh with it. But
I think it's important to mention I'm slightly biased because it does provide a bit to my livelihood. So,
but
so
don't
I try to be,
up.
and on my first session, like when somebody comes in, I try to be as honest as possible about it. At the end of the day, it is limited. Like all we're going to go through a lot of is really straight line skating. At the end of the day, if you want to get better crossovers, the treadmill probably isn't the place to work on your edges and really leaning on those edges and things like that. But by design, like I think one thing that's really cool about the treadmill is a couple different things. You're one-on-one with that coach the whole time. Like 30 minutes, I'm not talking at you the whole 30 minutes, but you are getting constant feedback, whether it's vocally through myself, whether it's feedback the treadmill is giving you because your footing's not in the right place, which we talk about. And my favorite part about the treadmill, and I say them all the time, is the mirror. Yeah. Like you're going to learn a lot more from that mirror than you're going to learn from me. Like I remember as a kid, you'd always tell me, keep my heels down. And I'd be looking behind me. I'm like, okay. Like I know what he's talking about. But then no idea what he's talking about. I'm just trying to make you happy. And then I get on the treadmill one day and my heels are like going up to my ears. Like, and I'm like, oh no, like that's what he's talking about for 12 years. If only he changed it. But my favorite part is it just by design, it forces you to skate in a straight line. So we're all about efficiency, right? Like if I had a clone of myself and I skate in zigzags and the other one skates in straight lines, the straight line guy is going to win the race every single time. So by design, getting used to the feedback, it tightens their base and it just forces them into a lot of good habits. But again, I think just having the constant feedback, seeing it all happen in front of you actively as it's going on, being able to be your own coach a little bit. Like I tell them all the time, like I'm Coach Wade, but you're Coach Max, you're Coach Kevin, like talk to yourselves. I can only point and say and kind of give you a couple different examples of things. But at the end of the day, you're talking to your body. And I think having that feedback of the treadmill, having that loop between looking in the mirror, looking down, looking in the mirror, looking down really kind of goes a long way in establishing good habits, assuming that we're teaching them the right things, which I think we are. So
yeah, no, totally. That's good. Kev, you were stuck in the dungeon for a little while.
Yeah. I agree with, I think you summed a lot of it up. I mean, you can help kids along, but you can't make kids better. And that doesn't matter if you're on the treadmill, in the shooting lane, on the ice. So unless they're seeing it, and like you said, that's by far the most important thing. Of course, getting on the ice, like that's amazing. That's number one, but ice is expensive. Tough to get a whole sheet of ice and just focus on your stride for most people for an hour. So getting on there, getting that muscle memory, that repetition, and getting them to see it. Like, hey, do you see what happens when you speed up? Your arms go side to side, your base gets wide, your heels, like you said, whatever. And at young ages, kids can see it. They really do pick it up. And as long as they want to try something new, it doesn't happen right away, but as long as they want to try something new or try to fix it, then yeah, I think it's massive piece of help in their skating. Even if you could get on the ice, only stay on the ice, I would still recommend doing a few, getting on the treadmill a little bit. Is it a little different than the ice? Yeah, there's a little more friction, things like that. I totally understand, but that doesn't matter. It's more, it's limited in terms of like the skating skills you can focus on. But if you're looking at that forward stride, like there's nothing better.
Yeah. And just because of the fact that it's moving, like if you can't stay afloat on it if your stance is really wide. Like how many times are you in the ice with a guy and his stance is this wide and it doesn't look pretty, it doesn't look great, but he is moving that way all the way down the ice. Like he's keeping up, even if it's not great, it's not ideal, it's not efficient. Like he's able to stay afloat on the treadmill. Like if your base is that wide and your upper body's out of control, you might not fall, but you're never going to gain control of it. You're never going to feel stable. Like the whole time that kid's in his head going, what's going on? You're like, how can I kind of get this ship back under control? So I think that's a really cool aspect because you're constantly fighting against the treadmill in the sense of trying to keep your line straight. So I've been the last year, like all I've been talking about is posture. Like I've learned a lot from the guys downstairs just about how much functionality has to come before power, speed, strength, and all those kind of other different elements. So like all you'll hear me down there saying is like knees bent, chest up, back straight, like just getting them in that posture. And now they're like little robots. They'll perk right up and they'll get right in that position. Yeah. But just having that posture, because you can do anything from there. You can stop now, you can transition, you can quick start, you can take a shot from there. But a lot of it comes back to posture and just by design, the treadmill, it doesn't allow you to do things that you might otherwise get away with on the ice. By design, somewhat forces you into straight lines. Again, not crossovers, things like that. But as far as straight line skating and just getting speed on a breakaway or on a back check, things like that, I think it's awesome. So
no, it's good. And I think some of the misconceptions of the treadmill is like, oh, you pull your groin or it's a bagger. And we saw that when we took this over years ago. That's what they were doing. You literally have a guy in a chair with the remote and just like jacking it as hard as he can.
Like a workout, more so.
Making it go as fast as he could and bringing the height of the treadmill up and just basically bagging kids on it and kids are getting gassed. And that's, I think, where you get injuries where I know when we kind of started taking it over, the big thing was we got to be teaching what we're teaching on the ice on the treadmill. So all those little cues that we use on the ice, let's use them on the treadmill and let's try to make that translate to the ice. So when they do come on the ice to our program or someone else's program, all those little efficiency things, hopefully are starting to get ironed out a little bit and they can work on them and keep thinking about it. But to your point though, like that's the one thing that I think is huge, and reiterating this to parents and players, that no coach can make you better. You're the only person that can make you better by practicing and thinking and, being aware of what you're doing, your body positioning, all that kind of stuff. That's the only way you're going to get better. And I think it's huge because so many kids and parents rely on their skills coach to make them better, which obviously you're going to help. There's no doubt. But if that kid doesn't want to do it, one of the first questions I ask all the time, someone's like, hey, I want to work with my skating. Can you work with my son on their skating? Yeah, no problem. Does your son think that their skating's bad? Well, no. oh, no, I'm not working with him on skating because he's gonna hate it. Like, you know, but if he's like, no, he's behind and he knows he's behind, he's getting caught by everybody and he wants to get better. Like 100%, let's do it. He'll get better fast if he wants to do that. You know, Max, what about you for even like shooting and stuff like that? So for any kids that are, you know, would you have any advice for kids out there that are doing some shooting in their basement or outside or things like that? Like, because going with what Wade said earlier, there's so much stuff on Instagram where some kid's going to see a guy shooting with his hands tight together and pucks 7 feet away and pulling pucks all over the place. And it's a mess, right? But is there any advice that you give the guys or girls that are working on stick handling or shooting just off the ice for free at home?
Yeah. So shooting, like the shooting stick handling aspect is a little bit easier to kind of work on off the ice, in my opinion. Like,
for sure.
Yeah. You can even use rollerblades if you want to keep, you know, the movement in your off ice game. You can have a set of rollerblades, you know, road hockey, whatever you guys are doing. But, anybody with a garage or a basement and stuff like that, anything you're doing, hand-eye coordination, any kind of quick movements, puck position, stuff like that, that's all great stuff to do off the ice, right? But again, it comes down to whether somebody wants to do that or not, right? If they're working on the right things, or if they're just going down there shooting 100 pucks a day, just wildly, however they want. I don't know. I'm sure you guys can jump in on this too, but like there's a ton of stuff you can work on as far as, like I mentioned, the kind of hand-eye, even we talk about batting pucks out, stuff like that. Like anybody can do that. Your dad can throw you pucks and you can whack, like, and it's great stuff and it's fun as long as you enjoy doing it. I remember as a kid, my brother and I, we'd do stuff like that all the time, you know, mini sticks and put targets up in our net, put old beer cans and milk jugs and stuff. And just like, that's all great stuff. Yeah. It's all going to benefit to your on ice play, your touches, your whole shooting, progression. But
I think it's, you're right. I think just getting out there and doing stuff is number one. Yeah. I think the other thing too is using the internet, using YouTube, using those things to find out, like, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't really matter what the drill is, but making sure that you're practicing the right way. Yeah. You're going to get better just by practicing no matter what. But man, if you practice the right way, or like your hands are in the right position, that's right, things like that. And I always tell parents and players too, but if you don't believe what I'm saying, then watch how the NHL guys do it. Watch their hands. Are they super tight together when they shoot? No, there's a reason for that, right? Like, they're the best in the world. So watch what they're doing. Watch how Pavelski tips pucks. You know, does he choke up on a stick sometimes? Yeah. Does he hang a stick way out wide and pull pucks in? He's unbelievable at it. We'll watch some clips on him and then practice that stuff, you know. But I think practicing the right stuff the right way is huge. But man, number one thing is get out there and do it. Like, go throw balls against the school, you know, brick wall, go, you know, do different things that are going to help that hand-eye and all that kind of stuff for sure.
But that's huge. And you mentioned it, like saying, hey, I'm going to shoot 100 pucks. And we said the same thing on the treadmill. Like, we don't go up on the treadmill and just go, okay, go show me how fast can you go? Because you just can't fix things at that speed. Well, going downstairs or in the garage or basement, whatever, and saying, hey, mom and dad, I just shot 100 pucks. It took me about 3 minutes. Great. You know, you're going to get that 10,000 puck challenge, which I think that's a great challenge. It's awesome. But I think sometimes, you know, in a lot of cases, quality over quantity is going to help you. So no, I only shot 40 or 50 pucks, but I was thinking about what I was doing. You know, when something really didn't go right, or I took off my toe and I missed the net by 4 feet, I was wondering why, or I was thinking about what happened. You know, now, yes, it was 40 pucks instead of 100 pucks, but now we're starting to get better. We're starting to improve, you know, and like you said, Max, the nice thing about puck stuff and stick stuff is you can do it at home. You know, the stride is a tough one. You can't, rollerblades are good. And there's some things you can take to the ice from there, like your body posture and your arm movement, but your stride's different on rollerblades. You can't go and fully work on the same stride. That's what makes the treadmill so beneficial. It's the same stride you'd use. The puck stuff, you can go in your garage and take the same shot. Yeah, you're not on your skates, but your hands, your shoulders, the way you're pulling the puck off your backhand or taking a pass or making a move is the exact same. You know, you just don't have that component of like a lot of speed. But I think that it's just important to slow it down and make sure you're thinking about the way you're doing things. And that's why we spend so much time, you know, in the training center on whether it's shooting or skating, on taking the time to say, hey, this is why that went really well, or that was great. Just focus on this. You know, this one didn't go as well, whatever. And that's why it's so important, I think.
Yeah. There's a lot of parents that ask how they can work on stuff off the ice, right? That's a question we get all the time. But even going back to skating quick, like you always get those players who really struggle to turn or stop one direction, and their parents like, what can we do off the ice that they're going to help with this stuff? And like even for me, with edging and stuff like that, I do kind of go back to rollerblades when we're talking about like turning and stuff like that, just getting them comfortable, dropping their hip, like kind of leaning, one way or the other. Even I said, and I know this is a bit extreme, but sometimes like just putting your skates on while you're watching TV or whatever like that. And just getting used to rocking back and forth, like having your body weight in the right position. And I don't know if kids actually do that or if their parents would actually have their kids do that, but like what better way to like feel your body out than actually, and even if you have to lean on a wall, because we all see those kids, they're on one foot and then they either lift it or they drag it or they, like their foot comes back to two inside edges. And for us, it's like, it's simple, the issue, but it's up to the kid to get out of that comfort zone and want to actually push themselves, right? Yeah. And that's the most frustrating part, not only for us when we're watching it, but from the parents. Like, why can't my kid turn left? Like, well, look at your kid. Every time he goes to turn left, he brings his foot back in and he's scared. Like he doesn't want to do it. So,
or just like your functionality, your range of motion, like some kids, especially as you get older, even sometimes like 10, 11, 12, like, hey, my kid's stride isn't very smooth. Watch this guy skate. He looks super smooth. Well, your kid's 11. He can't touch his toes. So that's going to be tough to be really smooth and be real quick when he can't get low enough. He can't keep his glide foot, call it neutral, like straight, and fully extend his other foot because he's not flexible enough, and maybe whatever, it'd be the same as having an injury. Oh, like you can't straighten your leg. Well, that's going to be tough to be real powerful in that stride. So like you said, like whether you're putting your skates on or just kind of getting comfortable leaning on your edges, well, yeah, you're watching TV. Every time you watch TV and every time a commercial comes on, you gotta, you want to improve your flexibility, range of motion. You talk to someone that knows what they're doing, or you go on YouTube and you Google whatever, and you find some range of motion exercises. And every time the commercials come on, you gotta spend that 4 minutes doing some exercises for your body, or and you can get way deeper in that stuff in terms of eating healthier and being healthier, blah, blah, all that. But I think for young kids, they're sometimes just immobile. Mm-hmm. They're not able to do some of the stuff, the right way.
For sure. And kind of tying everything you guys said, like you can kind of almost be your own little skills coach. Like I always look at like that Austin Matthews, his catch and release on his strong side. Like he catches it. Like if you look at that, like how many skills are just in that one overall skill? He's got to be able to receive a pass, then he's got to be able to toe drag a puck, and then he's got to be able to shoot a puck from tight to his feet. So like when you're learning and you want to kind of try all these different things, like don't be afraid to break down that skill yourself and say, okay, I'm just going to start by shooting tight to my feet. Okay, now I'm going to add a little bit of a toe drag in. Now I'm going to get dad to come out on the driveway and give me a little bit of a pass. You can kind of diagnose things and look at things yourselves and just kind of break them down a little bit more. Because Max was saying, like, keep it fun. Like, have your game 7 puck every 5 shots, where if you score it, you win game 7, you get to do a little celebration. Like, keep it fun, but don't be afraid to be a little bit more, like Kevy said, quality over quantity, and then break it down a little bit. It doesn't have to be the big picture right away, but just little micro kind of skills build up over time into what you see on the ice with kind of professional players and stuff. So.
Yeah, no, I think taking your time is huge. And I think for parents too, it's like be patient, and go through stuff slowly and then add speed and add extra things to it. But almost every single skill that we see at whatever level, like NHL level, let's say, it can be broken down into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 multiple parts. Like there's a bunch of ways to break that skill down and learn A, B, C, D, then bring it all back together for that kind of complete skill. And again, like we kind of look at it maybe a little bit differently because we do this day to day, and this is kind of what we do. So we may look at that Matthews shot, the way you explained it is perfect, but somebody else may look at it and be like, that was a sick shot. Man.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're going to practice the whole thing where you're like, no, just practice close to your feet, then drag, shoot, and then pass, drag, shoot. And then, now you get those building blocks, and the skill's way easier now than just trying to do the whole thing at once, for sure. Yeah. Well, I think it's big. And I think for a lot of young kids out there, they want to shoot like that, or they want to do these high-end skills, but how do they get to that point, right? And especially if they don't have a skills coach or they're working on it at home. I think rollerblades are huge. Like I think it is a really good, affordable way to train. It's not the same as skating for sure. I don't know if you guys ever, like when you guys were younger, did you guys play rollerblade hockey a little bit? Yeah. I remember playing rollerblade hockey, then going on the ice that afternoon or that night for practice, and how fall over, you rock, like your skates were so different. It was always so weird. Yeah. And now my little guys are starting to rollerblade a little bit, and they enjoy it. So now like I've been back on rollerblades a little bit with them, which is awesome because you can act like you're 12 years old and you're kids and you don't look like an idiot. But it is funny, man. I remember when we were young, we first started playing roller hockey just in our driveway, and like the road rash was just bailing, going hard too, and bailing. No idea how to control those things. Like
getting a rock.
How do you stop? Yeah, and how much more nervous are you now? Probably. Like I'm just thinking right now, like I haven't been on rollerblades in a long time.
Yeah.
But if I used to, no, I'm 100% confident I'm going to be fine. Every once in a while you bail. If I went on rollerblades right now, I'd be so scared of just eating.
It's freaky, man.
Yeah.
I went with my little guy too. And
Did you wear wrist guards?
no, I should have. Man. We're going down a hill and I'm like, how do I stop? You don't get the stoppers or anything. And I hadn't done that in years. I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. I'm pushing him. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I'm gonna have to bail out here in someone's front lawn. And I just started like, I had to drag my back foot, like just a toe on my one foot because I didn't know what else to do. But
you laying into him about like tightening up his base and keeping his heels down.
Yeah, that's so you look like a total bender coming out.
Yeah, probably. I couldn't even imagine. I was just like,
you.
freaking out, looking side to side.
That's how we afford too, because I used to always take the brakes off the back.
Oh yeah.
And then I was going the same thing. I was rollerblading at the gym, wherever I was going. Yeah, probably to the gym. No, I was rollerblading somewhere. I already know where I was going.
Past the gym, you mean?
Rollerblading home from the bar. Then I was going down a hill and never thought about it. And I was like, whoa, and you're getting speed, and that's scary, man.
Yeah.
You're starting to go side to side to like slow down.
You hit a pothole or a rock or something. Or
you guys ever hit the tar in the middle of the roads when they fix some
patch
of those?
it?
Yeah. Ever hit it in the summer where it's hot with a set of blades on?
Yeah. Just mush
Instant
Gone.
bail.
Yeah.
Instant bail. Yeah. It's happened once or twice to the kid here.
Yeah. So we got that to look forward to on next week's podcast. As Dwayne rollerblades more.
We'll go through,
His first
we'll
bail
go through a list of
story.
injuries I've had in the last couple of years. It's been great.
Yeah.
Awesome. Is there anything else that stands out? Like, is there any other stuff that you guys see right now as far as young kids wanting to get to that next level? So young kids that are going from like, let's say A hockey, B hockey, or B hockey to A, or A to double A, or whatever it is, double A to triple A or to junior. Are there things, especially as we get older, so let's look at maybe more like the 13, 14, 15-year-old kids. Is there any common things that you guys see skill set wise, attitude wise, mentally, whatever, that not are prohibiting kids, but are different than maybe when we were young, but things that kids should be working on in order to get to that next level? Is there anything that pops out to you guys that?
I mean, I think anything they can work on, you know, you're saying that anybody, first thing you got to do is get out there and shoot pucks, or, you know, get on your rollerblades and think about your stride. Even though it's not perfect, it's great, but getting out there and then starting to think more about it as you're out there. But I don't think you can go wrong. If you're a kid, like you said, like, hey, you want your kid to be faster. Does your kid want to be faster? If you want those things to happen, if you're willing to put in a little bit of time, then that's the start. And then you can start reaching out, whether it's, you know, on YouTube, like we keep saying, or wherever, or you know someone or a skills guy, or you got an older brother or kid down the street that plays junior, and you just reach out. And I think that's just want to get better and then find a way to start to improve.
Yeah. I think it doesn't matter how much you want it. It matters more how much your kid wants it, and providing an appropriate level based on how much they want it. Like if they don't really want it and you're pushing them, they're going to burn out. And then if you're under supporting them, they're probably maybe not burn out, but they might just drop out because they weren't pushed enough. So kind of reading that way, 13, 14, you're kind of getting to that age too. It's not necessarily a skill, but I think confidence becomes a big deal. You're starting to get to that age where you understand the game a little bit better. You understand where you sit in a roster or whatever you want to kind of call it. Like, you know, you're not on the power play, you're not on the penalty kill, you're that middle bubble guy. I don't know if I necessarily even have the solution. Maybe a little bit older, you can get into playing high school and things like that, where you get to be the guy a little bit more than maybe you would be on your AAA team or your center team or whatever. But just finding little pockets to kind of build their confidence up, kind of whether it's just a pat on the back or just kind of shooting in the driveway still. But I think that's a big one where kids kind of start to falter a little bit, is they have an okay skill set, but they're maybe just not used to being the kid with the puck on their stick, or they're not used to being that one to kind of shut down a player at the end of a game or whatever. But just kind of finding ways to kind of build their confidence so that they do feel like they can be that player. And I'm not saying they got to hog the puck and completely change their game, but I think in a lot of 13, 14-year-olds, you have your guys that have kind of risen to the top, and then you have the ones that are kind of just lying underneath there, not really sure who they are as a player, what they are, or what they should be. So kind of giving them a sense of direction, whether it's pointing on a TV and saying, hey, you play a lot like that player, kind of anchor your game to them a little bit. But I think confidence is a big one when you're starting to get into those teen years and getting into high school and stuff, because you have all this other stuff that's going on in their lives too, right? So
yeah. And I think going on confidence, I think it's a huge, huge point. I think sometimes working with a coach one-on-one, whether it's just shooting lessons or treadmill or on the ice, is a confidence booster for kids. Mm-hmm. And also, I'm not a fan of spring hockey, to be honest with you. I think it extends seasons really long. I think it's really tough on kids sometimes, and parents and money. And, you know, we spend $3,000 on spring hockey for 2 months of hockey. What could you get for that with training, right? Mm-hmm. Whether it's gym or taking jiu-jitsu or doing skill stuff, doesn't matter. But I think spring hockey does have its benefits for that confidence piece. Maybe you go play spring hockey maybe you had a bad experience throughout the year. Coach was on you. Go play spring with a new coach. Maybe you are the guy who gets the puck more and you're more of a leader on that team and get your confidence up. I think it does have benefits for that for sure. But I think that is a huge piece for sure is the confidence level.
Yeah, I totally agree. I was trying to think more like skill specific stuff, but as soon as you say that, like I think back to when I was that age and confidence was like a big factor, right? Especially if you're not one of those top players, like you kind of just settle. And for me anyway, like you kind of settle like, I'm not going to be that high end guy. Yeah. I'm just going to be, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to have fun and, whatever happens. Like, you're just at that age, right? Your body's changing. And it goes on and off the ice as well. Like you're at school, if you're one of the popular kids, like there's a lot that plays into it, and that all contributes to your athletic, like at being at the rink and comes into play with your sports for sure.
Yeah.
But that's a really good point because I think that's more than anything, right? Are the players that have the confidence are the ones that kind of succeed at that age group.
Like how many kids even just in a skill session you're teaching, I don't know, a little puck handling move, how many of them just right away, like they make the move and then their head goes to the sky. Yeah. And they just don't have any confidence in any of their ability to do it. And there's no particular reason that day, like nobody's been hard on them yet. It's the first drill you've done. But just they've already kind of lacked the confidence and they see, Billy going down, flying through, doing it easily with his eyes closed and stuff. So I think a lot of kind of stems from confidence. Like for me, it was when I got a little bit older, like I was again, never the guy. I always was your glue guy. Like I found little ways to fit in. I never killed a drill. I blocked shots, like did the little stuff. But I found a lot of my confidence like in high school. Like I got to be the guy. I was one of the better players. I was older too. Yeah. So guys looked up to me and stuff. And I got the puck on my stick. I was late in games going end to end, trying to make it happen for my team and stuff. And then that was the year that I went on to make junior B. And I didn't do too much in the summer, not saying that that's the way that you should go about doing it, but I was working a little bit more. And at this point I wanted more income. I didn't want to spend as much on the training side of it and everything. And I was more content with just playing out a career of junior and then just getting into the real world and stuff. I didn't have any more aspirations to go higher at that point. But I walked into junior B and I made the team and I was confident. I was laid back. It wasn't like my give a crap meter was at 0, but I was just a lot more relaxed. I didn't overthink. I tried hard, but I didn't over try. Like I wasn't gripping my stick too tight. I just went out and played and I found high school is not for everybody. Like if you're a top guy, you shouldn't be playing high school. Like get drafted, get your career on the way. But if you're the middle guy, like just playing, like you said, with a different coach, maybe a different set of guys, like just getting a little bit of a different look at the sport again, I think it can go a long way because a lot of guys, I think, just lose their interest in girls too, obviously. But just kind of finding that love for it again by just getting a chance and stuff, I think is great.
For sure. One thing too, I think as kids get older is are they mentally tough enough to be able to play? Like, let's say we talk about elite kids playing at that higher level, like whether it's the junior hockey, major junior, whatever it is. Are they mentally tough enough? Meaning, if they're not getting ice time, can they go talk to the coach? I just talked to a kid the other day. He hasn't played a game yet. He's playing college hockey, and I've said, "Well, did you talk to the coach? Like, ask what they want from you?" He's like, "No."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what are you doing? Like, show up to practice every day, just work hard, and just hope that they're gonna you got to show initiative. You got to be able to have those conversations and that dialogue. And again, I always kind of talk about this, but I think it falls back on parents too at younger ages. Get your kids to go talk to their teacher. Get your kids to talk to the bus driver because something's going wrong or whatever. You can help them on that, obviously, but let them be a little bit more proactive in putting out fires. Let them sink a little bit. Let them. Get in trouble a bit or have things not go the right way just because we're always, as parents, always making sure everything's right, And I think that's a big thing too is can kids take a bit of a beating? Can they get yelled at without buckling? Can they, take some criticism without thinking everyone hates them, And I think that's a big piece of having success. And that's not even hockey to me. That's just life,
Oh, for sure.
But I think that's one thing that, and as coaches too, we got to keep kids accountable, I think, and make sure that we're not too soft on them because sometimes, I think all of us tend to be a little bit soft on kids, especially when they're not yours. I think it's easier to be hard. Kids hard sometimes to be harder than other kids, but I think that's a big piece though, is that mental part of the game for sure. Last thing here, leadership. Do you guys think that you can teach leadership? So do you think you can teach someone to be a leader? Now you've got your captains, you got your Tom Brady's or your Sidney Crosby's or your Wayne Gretzky's that are just their whole life. People naturally gravitate to them and stuff like that. And then you have other players that are maybe never been a captain, right? But not to say that they're not good leaders or they're not, good leaders within their peer group or good teammates, things like that. But can you teach leadership and how do you teach it?
I'll We do a little bit of this in school. I can bring my little bit of schooling background into it. Paid so much money for it. So, but no, they say it's kind of 50-50, right? And it's nature versus nurture. Nurture being people teach you how to do it. Nature being you're just kind of born with it. Originally, the theory was you were just simply born with it. It was just innate qualities that you had in your genetics, whatever. It's definitely a little bit of both. I think the people that have really good leaders right from the get-go when you're young will kind of be driven a little bit more towards it. Like I think of my mom, my dad. I had really good teachers growing up. I never really had bad coaches. They might not have been great at X's and O's, but I never really had a bad person like behind the bench, like with malintentions or anything. So like my whole way up, I had really good role models that I could always kind of cling to. Like I could go down the list of every single coach, teacher I had. But at the same time, I also have gone into courses and things to take leadership in high school and things like that. So I think people that are born into a really good situation maybe might be pushed a little bit more towards it and kind of led to it. But I have no doubt that if maybe you haven't had a great parent figure or things like that, that you could kind of enlist in a leadership class in high school and things like that and learn it. I think they need to be pushed a little bit more, but you can make a big difference too as a coach. Somebody might not have a great home, but you could be that kind of solid coach and you can provide that presence to them. And now that person who otherwise may have not turned into a great leader gets somebody that they can kind of anchor onto. So all these kind of peripheral people, all this insulation around people who grow up and things like that, I think play a big role in it. So I think it's definitely a combination of both. Like you're born into good situations or maybe not, but one person even can go a long way in kind of making those changes and developing leadership qualities in young athletes and people in general. So,
No, I think that's, for sure.
I don't know how we follow that.
Yeah. Thanks, Wade.
It's a university degree right there, 7 years in the making.
He's going to be a doctor, everybody. Dr. Wade. I think those are great points.
Yeah.
And I think, as parents too, I mean, because there are some people that have come out of like terrible situations that are great leaders, and it could be that one person, that one football coach or basketball coach or hockey coach that helps that young boy or young girl up and moving. But I think even as parents, I think we play a big role in that at young ages, and I know, like, a quick story, but my little guy's going through it, and not that I want him to be a captain one day or anything like that, but I just want him to be a good person. I just want him not to be a shit. So, but we give out these little awards at the end of the games, or their coach does at the end of hockey games. And last year, he thought he played well, and then the hardest worker today goes to Kevin. My little guy's like, I should have got it. Like, whoa! Like I was like wanted to grab him, and I'm like, Maddox, no. So then every single game, I made him go to the guy who got the game, the award, whatever. You go and say, hey, good game, congratulations. And he wouldn't do it at first. Like he was pissed because he thought he should get it. The next game, same thing happened. He the other kid, and he ended up going to say congrats and unwillingly, but one did it. And then the next game, somebody else got it, and I could see him just like mad that he didn't get it. And I was like, you go. So he did, went over, hey, good game, congrats, whatever. And then it just became part of the routine. He ended up winning it, at one point, which is fine. Everyone wins it, which is great. I think it's good. But it's one of those things where, like, yeah, maybe he did have some games where he did play well. Like, doesn't matter, but it doesn't matter. Like, you got to be a good teammate. You got to be a good person. Like, and even if you're mad, we've all left rings pissed that we didn't get points or pissed that we got benched or whatever it is. Man, we all played with guys that if they didn't get a point in the first period, they were pouty pants for the rest of the game. And it's brutal to be around those people. Mm-hmm. You can win a game 3-2 in overtime. This guy didn't get any points. He's pissed off in the corner. Yeah. Like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Yeah. And so just trying to cultivate that at young ages, I think, to not be like that and to be supportive of your teammates. And you can leave the ring pissed off for sure, but just don't show it. Just bottle it up, get in the car. You can blow a gasket in the car. You can blow a gasket when you get home, but try to bottle it up, I think, a little bit more, before you leave the ring type thing,
Yeah.
Kevin, what do you got there, bud?
No, I agree with Wade. Period. No, I think it's 100% to me something you can learn.
Yeah.
I think you make a really good leader a great leader, and I think you can make someone that's maybe doesn't, like, for whatever reason, have a ton of those leadership qualities initially. I think you can make them aware of it at least, and maybe they're real quiet, and maybe they're, who knows, maybe they're an introvert and they're whatever. I shouldn't say that. You can be a great leader and an introvert, or a great leader and an extrovert. There's all different types of leaders, but 100%, I think it's a habit. It's it's the way you treat people. It's being a good teammate. Some of it's just habits. Like Maddox, like, it became a bit of a habit that whether he wanted to or whether he knew you were going to make him, he had to go say, hey, congrats, and give a guy a little fist bump. You know what I mean? So it's a habit, just doing good things. And then there's people that at any level go above and beyond, and they're just naturally, like, people just follow them, you know? So that's great. But I think those people, like those Shea Webbers and, you know, whoever they are in the NHL, like, do you think those people got better as they went on, even though they were born with like certain qualities? I think they 100% they did. They learned things that were like the first time, whatever, something happened after a tough loss or they had a tough game and they didn't handle it well, or a bad interview or whatever they did, and they sold someone out in the media. Like they probably learned from that. And we're like, that probably wasn't right. I should have had a team meeting instead, or do you know what I mean? A closed door meeting, whatever. Like I think they learned. So I think at every level and every style of leadership quality, you can definitely be taught.
Yeah.
And whether that's you teaching yourself, you know, from like self-reflection, or somebody saying, hey, that would have been a good chance to like let your teammates know they did a great job or whatever. So
yeah, it starts young. Like to tie the whole episode together, we started talking about that little guy who kind of learned not to celebrate when you get the backdoor tap in, but the point of the guy, like he's literally, I think maybe 6, like he's one of the younger guys. He's only 6 years old.
Well, that's
and that is already a
leadership
leadership quality right there that, you know, as long as he keeps doing it, he might go back to just jumping in the glass or whatever. But no, and like I always think back to like, people would always be like, how'd you get into coaching? Why do you like coaching so much? And I was like, I don't know. And then like, where did that kind of come from? And I remember unfortunately we were at a funeral, but my mom had kind of set up the visitation in the wake afterwards and everything. And I was like, my back was turned to her. I was talking to somebody and she goes, like, starts yelling. She goes, okay. Like she'd organized the food and everything. And my like hair went up on the back of my neck. And I'm like, oh my God, like that's me, like running in ice time. Like the way that she just took complete command of the room. Everybody like stopped and turned. I'm like, oh my God, like I'm my mom. Like, I love you, Mom. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But I was just finally kind of clicked. I was like, I'd been around her my whole life. And she wasn't really like, my dad would be more of like the lessons guy. Like he would sit me down and say, hey, here's why you go and point at that kid that gives you the backdoor tap in. But she, like her presence just all throughout, like it wasn't always indirect. It was sometimes direct from my dad, sometimes indirect in my mom's like presence. But yeah, like it's a little bit of everything. So you never know the impact you're going to make on a kid and stuff. So
for sure. No, definitely. And I think, you know, going back to coaching and stuff, I think you do have such a important role. Yeah. And I think some people take it for granted a little bit, but man, like teaching kids how to be good people, teaching kids how to, aside from the sport, it doesn't matter about the sport, but doing the right things, saying the right things, pleases and thank yous. Like, yeah, parents should be doing this. Some parents don't. But as a coach, I mean, you got a massive influence there if you do it the right way. And if you're, you know, helping these kids kind of move in the right direction, I think it's massive for sure.
Yeah.
All right, boys. We'll do this again for sure. So tomorrow at, no, I'm just kidding. But no, we'll sit down again for sure and go through some other kind of topics, but we'll come up with some other stuff that we'll chat about a little bit as we get moving through. But thanks a lot for coming.
Yeah.
And,
nice to have you, Wado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knock it out of the park or what?
Yeah,
you found your side.
Omar, your big educational big words.
Yeah. Your school, like just because you
put my degree right there in the next episode.
Hey, just because you spent 7 years in high school.
First, it's still not done yet.
Would you do like 5 to 6 years in high school, and now you're 7 years university?
Couple of victory laps in high school, couple of victory laps right now in
nothing wrong with that.
So.
Yeah, perfect. Attaboy.
Yeah.
Keep at it, bud. All right, let's see you, boys.
Buddy.
Thanks, man.